Oh, I'm your host, Stephen Willis, along with Bill Flowers, talking, I guess, Ole Miss 52, Arkansas 51. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing a lot better than I was Saturday. I was having some heart palpitations. I had some flashbacks of some bad memories.
Yeah, you were on the team in 2002, weren't you?
Yeah, 2002, and that seven overtime. I think I saw something where Eli was talking about. I think he was speaking at the Arkansas quarterback club, and he was thinking that I was hoping that the outcome was going to be different. And every time seeing the ESPN recaps, you're like, oh, come on, please, Matt Jones, don't don't score. And so yeah, that was there. And then the the only one that might have been worse than that was Hunter Henry when he
Yeah.
caught the last play of the game where they lateral and then they go in to win. So the history was not on our side on Saturday. So I was a little pessimistic about it, but I was glad to see the Rebels win, and I felt zero sympathy for the Hogs.
Yeah, it felt like that was a little bit of karma paying off a debt for our past history. But what is the deal with Arkansas in these crazy games?
I have no idea. I mean, they have always been a thorn in our side.
Well, now let's talk about the game a little bit. What did you notice? I noticed that Dontario Drummond played outside. We talked about that a little bit last week. They
Yeah,
moved him out of the slot. What did you notice in that game?
I noticed that we focused on the run. Like I said, the only way that we win is by establishing the RPO, is establishing our run, and I think Snoop. I love seeing him playing. I love his combination of speed and power, um, and that's what I felt like we did an amazing job of. I mean, Corral. I mean, he just did what he had to do. I mean, he solidified himself as one of the top players in all of college football, not just by his arm, but just by his leadership and his will to win. And so I think that's what was so uh, prominent, that stood out, was Corral's grit. And uh, so I mean, that to me was what was the biggest standout in our ability to just to kind of hang in there and to endure. But our defense, man, that also stood out. I
Hmm.
mean, at the end, Kiffin was like, they asked him essentially, do you have how proud of you of your defense to how they made that stand? He's like, well, essentially they didn't make the stand. They just didn't make the second. They just didn't execute on their 2 point conversion.
Yeah.
Um, so that's our ability to to establish the run from our backfield is a little concerning. Our ability to stop the run down our throat is a little is concerning. So I think that those are the things that kind of stood out to me. Um, but I felt like we did a great job of hanging in there and just enduring and not giving up.
Yeah, and for people watching this thinking we're talking about the defense, I did rewatch that today, and between 5 and 10 times, we had the play blown up for 0 or 1 yards. We missed the tackle, and the running back ended up going for +5. That's a little bit that's fixable. I was worried about that it was a schematic thing because every defense has a weak point, but that one being what it is, I was worried that it was a schematic thing. And after watching the game, I saw that there were plays there to be made, and it wasn't something where they were running 5 yards downfield before the first player touched them.
Well, that's kind of my point. Is if it's a schematic thing, you can fix that. If it's an inability to stop a play, uh, being physical, those are the things that it's going to wear on you over time. We're only what 5 games into it. You know, and we're getting into the teeth of our SEC play. It's you're talking about that's my concern. It's just ability to stay in the trenches, to be able to physically take that beating and have the depth and the fortitude to withstand what you have to do. I mean, Arkansas to me, before Alabama game, if you had to ask me which team would you rather see, Alabama or Arkansas, I would have rather said Alabama because how physical Arkansas is. And I thought we would have a really hard time running on them because they're such a physical team, and that's what they predicate themselves on. And so, we were. I don't know if it was a situation where we kind of just got overhyped and kind of just wore ourselves out before the Alabama game, but we were ready for the Arkansas game. And physically on offense, we were able to do what we need to do, but you cannot rely on Corral to be your best running back, to be the guy that's going to continually, win games for you with his feet. You just can't do that. It's not going to bode well for us. And so that's my concern defensively is can we withstand the line of scrimmage? And you faced Alabama, you faced Arkansas. Are those two people, those two teams, so much better physically than everybody else in the West? We'll see.
Yeah. Going back in time real quick, after 2002, after the 7 overtime game, how did that affect y'all? Because after that game, you guys were not the same team as before.
Well, I think it affects you physically, but it also affects you emotionally. But I mean, I know after the game. I mean, you remember you played Auburn. Auburn was a fantastic team the following week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you play seven, and I might be wrong on this, but I think the following week or 2 weeks later, Arkansas had to play Kentucky, and they went in. I think they went 7 overtimes again.
Yeah, I think they did,
or something crazy like that. But I mean, and after that year, the NCAA put a cap on it because physically, you just can't do that. Like you're just opening up a can of worms to just injury. But I would say that you can't. The lack of success, so to speak, was not because we lost that game. It's just you played in the SEC and you played great teams. I mean, Auburn, that was a great Auburn team. So when you play in the SEC West or you play SEC in general, it's anybody can win, anybody can lose, but I don't think that game was a defining moment to where it depleted us in any other way than just that was just an exhausting game. That the following week playing against Auburn, probably didn't help us.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious about that with everything that's going on because that was also the year I think that you guys beat Alabama and Alabama went to the bowl game. I think something like that happened. They went to the Independence Bowl.
No,
and you guys sat home. That was the year before.
Yeah. So we in 2002 we went to Alabama for their homecoming, and they beat us unmercifully. And the next year, we returned the favor in 2003.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't that year, but
that was probably 2001. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 2002 was the year y'all played Nebraska, wasn't
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's move on to this week's game. This is a game that I'm a little bit nervous about because I think we might be going into a bit of a hornet's nest. Tennessee can run the ball pretty well. They're about 250 yards a game-ish or 230 yards a game, somewhere in there. They've been running the ball pretty effectively. Since Hendon Hooker moved in at quarterback, they've gotten better offensively. What do you think going into this game?
I think Tennessee's looking like they're starting to peak. They're really starting to click. And, that's concerning for us. I mean, that's definitely a You offensively, we can play and put as many points up as we need to in most cases, but it's our defense. And right now, Tennessee is looking like they're peaking. You
Yes,
okay?
yeah, coughing. I got it, swallowed a hair or something. So, one thing I've noticed with Tennessee, they're moving. It's like a new coach moves into a situation, they play pretty well. I think Ole Miss did that when Cut got the job. It was like a big turnaround year after Tommy Tuberville left. So I see a little bit of the improvement and the enthusiasm in the Tennessee team because Josh Heupel really has it going on. I really liked the uniforms last week too. But I am worried about our ability to stop the run, and I do worry about Tennessee's running the ball, even though our systems are the same, kind of like last year. I expect to see a lot of the same stuff.
It's going to come down to us being able to control the line of scrimmage. I think that's the thing about the SEC. You know, in the SEC, it's all about the trenches. That's what it is. The team that has the best trenches wins because you're able to control what you need to control. You're able to modify things. If you, in years past, like if all you are is an air raid team, you're only as good, from throwing the ball. The chances of you handing the ball off and being able to control the line of scrimmage and manipulate the clock and keep the ball out of the other team's hands is much easier to do than throwing the ball every play when you drop 8 defenders. So to me, every week it's going to come down to our defensive line and our linebackers and us being able to use what we have. We're going to have to be able to stunt. Like, it's sort of like this. If you tell me, okay, you have this talent right here, my talent versus your talent. Your talent might beat mine, but if I could schematically be able to do something that can create a little bit of an edge, then I have an opportunity to beat you with your talent. And so I think that if all we do is go straight down and say, I'm going to beat your talent with my talent by pure muscle, you lose. But if you're able to stunt and do different things and create confusion, that's when you're able to help yourself. I'm a big component on. I'm a big believer in. You know what? I would rather die by the big play than die by paper cut. Mm-hmm. And with our offense, it gives you the ability to be more aggressive. And so I would be excited to see a bunch of blitzes from our safeties. Bring pressure from our safeties. Bring pressures from our if we're running, a 3-2-6, okay, I don't care. Bring some extra safeties. Bring some other people. Bring some corners. Meet those backers in the back. Meet the running backs in the backfield. Don't let them get. I mean, if you run a draw and you run it for 80 yards, and you ran past my my linebacker because he didn't tackle you because he just missed it, okay. But usually, if you're bringing people and you're bringing pressure, you're going to meet people in the middle. And so that's what I'm hoping to see. That's what I think our defense needs. We are not going to sit there and just say, my talent's better than your talent. We're going to have to bring pressure and do things and say, hey, offense, we are going to bring everything we possibly got to help you guys out. Everything's predicated around the offense. Our defense is okay, but we're going to give you our best. We're going to give you our best schemes. We're going to give you our best effort, and we're going to leave it all on the field for y'all. And I think that's what we have to do. If they run 100 points on us, great. But I don't want to see us sitting there and not running, some a bunch of pressure, a bunch of blitzes. I'm a huge believer right now in that. In order for our defense to succeed, we have to bring pressure from all different angles and all different angles.
Yeah. Yeah, especially against a team that has shown that they don't do very well against pressure. So
Yeah,
it would be bad if we sat back. Now with Dontario Drummond going out to wide receiver, playing out wide, moved from the slot, and John Rice Plumlee made a couple of catches in the last game. It
yeah,
looks like his role is going to expand moving forward.
yeah. So I talked about, I wanted to see more of him.
Mm.
I wanted to see more of him because when you bring Plumlee in, it it the defense can't just look at him. You can't just look at him as another receiver. You just can't from a defensive coordinator standpoint. There's something in the back of your mind going, what's he going to do? Are they going to do a trick play with him? Are they going to use him differently than what? You put him in motion. Is he going to catch it? Is he going to throw it? Is he going to do something? So just by the fact having him in the game is going to create a little bit of an extra thought process that might not be there. And paralysis by analysis. Listen, I do not have to make you just completely shut down in your mind. All I need is one little step. Get you thinking just a little bit. And so I loved seeing Plumlee in there last week. You saw that he injected a fusion of enthusiasm when he was in there. And I loved seeing him. I loved seeing him. And I think that he brings things to the table with that excitement and that curiosity that as a fan you'd like to see, but as a defensive coordinator you're like, they can do more things with him. Remember Randall L. When he played with the Steelers, they used him all the time from receiver to quarterback, and they used him. Plumlee can do the same thing, and that was one of the things that really kind of bummed me out against Alabama. Was I thought they were going to use Plumlee more in regards to kind of, making him part of a offensive scheme that's causing Alabama to have to slow down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just something to make them think, but
yes.
It didn't necessarily work out. I guess they found out right before the game that Mingo wasn't going to be able to go.
Yeah.
So that's the way. This is the next man up type situation. Now, who are the players that you are looking most forward to that need to really show up against Tennessee?
Well, I think again, every day as a receiver, you're gonna hear me and how our offense plays. You're going to hear me preach and just pound. I need to see our running backs get downfield. I need to see Snoop Conner get 75 to 100 yards. That's what I want to see him doing. I want to see our running back get downfield, break tackles, our offensive linemen, creating holes. After that, I want to see Sanders. Creating more plays, not so much down the field, but stretching the field and coming back. I felt like I saw him make more plays this week with more designed attacking the deep, but coming back. I want to see more of that because Sanders is fast and he can stretch it. So I wanted to see that. Obviously, Mingo. I want to see Mingo getting more involved, just like he's
getting
been.
Healthy.
Yeah. Sorry, Drummond. I want to see Drummond. I want to see Drummond. I think a guy like him, he has ability to change the game. So when you look from an NFL standpoint to a college standpoint, I don't know what his speed is from a standpoint of just raw speed, but in the NFL, if you don't have amazing ability to create separation, everybody's fast. In college, sometimes you have the ability to just wield your size and wield your athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and to me, that's Drummond. Right now, he's at a point where I think we really need to make plays, put him in motion as much as possible, and just say we're going to feed this cat. We don't really have a tight end that we can establish as a huge threat, but by God, we've got this beast out here that we can put into motion. We can run him from the inside. We can run him from the outside. We can make him a focal point. It just seems like when we focus on him, getting him the ball, things just happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see Plumlee a lot more of trying to just keep the defense on their toes, keep them. I mean, the kid's athletic. He's got the ability to play, and I think he could be a really good asset. I mean, he played really well last week, and then Drummond. So I think from a receiver standpoint, I want to see Drummond. I want to see Plumlee, and then the other guys and Sanders stretching the field at his speed. And then it's going to come to the running back. I don't want to see Matt having to shoulder 20 carries. That's just not good business for us.
Yeah, that isn't very very good at all. I am looking forward to see. I want to see what kind of role Plumlee has, because he did really show out last week a little bit. Drummond on the outside, he caught a long touchdown just because they basically assumed he was lead blocking for a bubble screen or a hitch out on the outside.
Right.
It's just a double move. They called it a sluggo, but it was really just a pretend block and go. And Braylon Sanders on the outside just doing double moves all day. They did a good job of scheming him to where you didn't necessarily know where he was going to be. You saw him in the backfield some. You saw him in the slot some. So you can see they're starting to put those wheels together as well.
Yeah, I think for me, understanding the speed of what speed can do with Sanders, you need to if you can always utilize somebody as the motion guy, but for me it's Drummond right now. I want to see Drummond saying, listen, right now we're going to focus on getting the ball in Drummond's hands. We're going to focus on him. He's going to be our focal point. Let's design it around him. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, he's physical. Safeties don't want to hit him. It hurts to hit a guy like that. And so to me, it's right now. Sanders is your speed guy. Stretch the defense, but design plays to where more of comebacks, more of in routes, really utilizing his speed, maybe focusing on using Drummond a lot more on coming across routes as you put him in motion, but just really trying to get the ball in that big boy's hands.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Bill Flowers here talking ball right here on Positively Ole Miss. Thank you, Bill, for joining us today like you do every week. We'll be back for next week to talk a little bit of LSU. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about different experiences within the LSU game. So thanks, Bill, for joining us, and in the future, everybody tune in. Anyway, hotty toddy. Yeah.